We did get a view of some family trees, and so that's we're all richer having heard about that. I think the spirit of Mr. Keurick's motion makes a lot of sense. It's apparent that there's a lack of judgment and adult supervision in Justin Trudeau's office. This is the sad reality that we have to face. He's twice been found guilty of breaking the law. Ethics laws, 2 times. The finance minister, 1 time. Now, both of them, both Justin Trudeau and Bill Morneau, are under investigation again. So media asked Cabinet these questions. Did you know? Crickets from them. So who's going to find out? So to Mr. Angus's point, we take them at their word. Okay, all of the ministers, would the Liberal members on the committee vote for this motion if all Liberal ministers who've spoken to media or on the public record about their knowledge, that we exclude them from the motion? Would that satisfy the committee? It's not a fishing expedition. Did you have knowledge of the personal relationships? Question 1. And then with the amended motion, we're asking if Cabinet members, to the best of their knowledge, know about their immediate family or relatives' connections. We're not asking what they are. I'm not asking who your nephew is, where he works, or what his connection is. They'd respond to the chair and say, yes, I do have family connections. Then it would be for the committee to decide what to do with that. Do we call that member before the committee, or do we refer that matter to the ethics commissioner? Well, we could do that. But the most important part of what we're finding out here is who knew. We're looking at what safeguards are in place. Well, Cabinet obviously isn't a sufficient safeguard. I knew that Margaret Trudeau was speaking for we. I knew that Sacha Trudeau was speaking for we. How did that escape the attention of the federal cabinet and PCO? How did that happen? These arguments are a red herring. Mr. Garrettson sat there last week. The conversation came up and said, okay, let's go home. Okay, well, if that was genuine, and if there were questions, there were no questions to Mr. I'll look for an off-camera response from Mr. Keurick. Were there any questions to your personal email account from government members looking for clarification or collaboration on the motion? And he's indicated there was not. So this isn't collaborative. There's no cooperation here. We're ragging the puck again. We've been through one of your filibusters on this committee already. It's a cover-up, guys. That's what this is. You're complicit in a cover-up. There's no question that there's a prima facie case on our hands of ethics violations. There's no question. It's under investigation. I wrote the ethics commissioner. He confirmed he would investigate based on the facts that were presented. Mr. Angus wrote the ethics commissioner. We both raised some of the same points, some different points. And guess what? Investigations are underway. If a lesson was learned the first time that Justin Trudeau broke ethics laws, I would believe that he was sorry. If Bill Morneau was really ready to take accountability for breaking ethics laws, and if he was sorry, he would have read the act. He didn't. We heard at the last committee he didn't. At finance, well, I think they gave it to me when I first got elected. Yikes. You've got to be kidding me. You broke the law and you didn't even take the time to read it. I've got to tell you, I've got to tell you, if I was sitting in the defendant's chair in the prisoner's box in court, I'd probably take a look at the criminal code section for which I was being tried. I would expect the same is true for conflict of interest violations. The act as if it's innocent mistakes and who would know and how would I know? I take proactive steps to ensure that I am in compliance with the rules that govern us as parliamentarians. I hope there's an opportunity at some point, if anyone doubts that that we, perhaps I can ask my advisor in the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner's office if she could provide an indication with my consent of how often I contact her to confirm compliance about correspondence, about meetings, about people offering invitations to events. All legitimate functions in my role as MP. Am I being overcautious? Maybe. I'm also not under investigation. I've also not been found to have broken the act. I would expect the same of any of the 337 other members who occupy seats in the chamber. Is it not too much to ask the same of the federal cabinet? None of you are in cabinet. You aspire to be, as do I. I hope that in the next election, we form a conservative government. I see Mr. Drouin doesn't think that's going to come to pass. I don't know, but we're going to. He says he doesn't have hopes for cabinet. Well, but as members, we have an obligation to be a check against the power in the executive. That's our job. That's our job. I imply that there's been no offer made to any of you in exchange for your defense of the government today. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you don't have to do it. What you do have to do for Canadians is exercise your role to ensure that there's transparency and accountability. Immediate family, to the best of your knowledge. Yes or no? It's basically a yes or no question. Disclose whether they had knowledge of the personal relationships between, is what that sentence says. That's a yes or no question. Additionally, the letter should require that all members of cabinet disclose to the best of their knowledge whether their immediate families have connections to we. It doesn't ask what those connections are. These are eminently reasonable amendments to a well-intentioned motion that is consistent with the study that this committee is undertaking. It's absolutely in the public interest that this go forward. Not supporting this motion is complicity in a cover-up. That's what we're faced with here. I've heard, Canadians have heard your points about you believing the motion was too broad. Mr. Fortin has amended the motion very reasonably. It's tightened up. I think that's very appropriate. I think the amendments were very appropriate. I will support them. And I hope that members opposite support it. And I hope that we can get to voting on the main motion. The meeting's to adjourn at 2. It would be unfortunate to have to carry this into this motion into a third meeting. Just have the courage of your convictions. If you don't like it, vote it down. If you think that it needs to be amended, if you think that there's changes warranted, make the amendment. Let's not just fill the speakers list for the sake of running out the clock. Everyone has important things to do. It's Mr. Angus's daughter's birthday. My gift to Mr. Angus is that I'm going to encourage everyone to expeditiously move forward with this motion and vote for it. I obviously hope you vote in favor of it, but if not, stand up and be counted. That's show business.
Mr. Barrett.
Yes.
Mr. Duncan.
Yes.
Mr. Courig.
I vote yes.
Monsieur Fortin.
Oui.
Mr. Angus.
No.
We have 4 voting yes and 6 voting no. The motion does not pass. Mr. Fergus, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'd like to take this opportunity to apologize to you for making some of my comments very personal today. I will endeavor not to do so in the future.
Well, thank you, Mr. Fergus. That was very kind. With that, ladies and gentlemen, this committee is now adjourned.